Hi, I'm Kathy from Stitch It Together. Today I'm going to finish my Hunter Star quilt by AccuQuilt. All I have left are the borders. I'm going to pick something that's very simple, and is just in the same style as the blocks that I picked, which was by a Pro Stitcher. But this border is something that is in the gold features. It's in one of the gold patterns. It's just very similar in the same style. And it's a very small border, so I just wanted something that was simple and quick to finish it off with. Let me show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to open in gold features. I'm going to pick borders and corners. And now the first thing it's going to ask me to do is I need to make some placements. And this is different than when you're using a pantograph. With this, I am showing QCT where the edges and the corners are for my border, and it's going to fill everything in for me. So I'm going to go right up to the corner here. I'm going to use needle jog because I have a 21X Elite that allows me to have that feature. And I'm going to push outside corner. I'm going to go to the inside corner right here. Push the inside corner. I'm just going to go down a little bit. It's the next one. And then to the outside. The foot that I'm using is very helpful because it has lines where my needle should stitch. And so I'm just kind of lining up those spots with that, with those markings. Now, as you can see, because I've already quilted this, my corner is just a little off here. It's got pull, it's distorted. So I am just going to draw where I think it should be. I'm just going to draw it, bring my machine where I think it should be and mark that corner. I'm going to mark this one as well. And then my other points, just like I did for the other side. Here we go. Now QCT has drawn exactly my dimensions. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to move to set margins. That's in this box right here. And I'm going to unlock this so that I can have a different margin for the outside and the inside border. For my outside border, I'm going to choose, let me see, what do I want to do? I think maybe I want to do a 1/2 inch. And for my inside border, I think I probably only want 1/8 of an inch. So that generally works for me so that the border stitching will not get covered when I am putting the binding on. That gives it plenty of room to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the patterns. I'm going to select, it doesn't really matter which one you want to do, but I do want to select my corner. I'm going to go to patterns. I'm going to go to, where's gold? Gold patterns, and there's a folder called gold border sets. And this is the one I'm going to pick. And since I'm picking the border corner, I'm picking the corner first. And as you see, it's going to fill in right here. And now I'm going to click join. I'm going to select my border, the one that matches it. I'm going to say OK. And I did not click my autofill. So I'm going to say autofill. And it has now filled that in for me. If I had any adjustments to make, I could do that. This is a very easy pattern to use, and so I'm not going to need to make any of those adjustments. So I am just going to now say, sew all. And I can see where my start is, and I can see where my stop is. I'm just going to move my machine very close to where I think that start point is going to be, and I'm going to pull my bobbin. I will say that I should have probably gone to my settings and selected which would have been right here, the stitch length and whatever stitch length that I wanted. But I've already done that. It was left where I like it to be at 12. But if you wanted to change that, you should do that first. But now that I've done that, I'm just going to say sew. And this is going to sew my top border for me. While this is stitching, I want to point out that when I go to do the left and right borders, you're going to see that I'm going to have to be very careful because I was trying to be practical and not have to piece this quilt together, the borders together, the backing, not piece my backing. I did not leave a lot of fabric yardage right here on the side. I did not leave a big distance right there. So when I go and flip this quilt to do the left and right borders, I'm going to have to be very careful. I may even have to add like a strip that's basted on that would be removed later. Okay, so it has finished stitching, and I'm going to take a picture of my pattern up here so that I can see which direction everything is going in. This pattern does have a direction. It goes up. I mean, you have the heart, and then you have a point, and you have the heart, and you have a point. And that may matter later on, and it would be good to have a picture of that for reference. But I can also save it so that I can go back and look at it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to roll down to the bottom of my quilt. Just saving it, I went back to the first screen, and I just picked the save button. I gave it a name, and I'm going to save it. Now I'm going to roll up the quilt. I've rolled up my quilt so that I can get to the bottom border. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure I go up to border style placement, back up here, and then I'm going to go bottom. I'm just going to click the bottom. And it is saying, you must replace the border corner points, which is fine. It means I need to reset everything. I'm going to say, okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to just start with the outside corner. Marking my points. I'm going to go back to margins, set margins. It stayed the same, so that's really good. I'm glad for that. It's already got my patterns. It's just really as I want it to be. You would want to make sure that if you had a pattern that was truly directional, and again, mine does have up and down, but there may be something more to your pattern that requires you to be more careful, and you may have to flip patterns, in which case you go to flip patterns here. Now, what I'm going to do on this bottom border and show you now is also how to do fabric compensation with this. I didn't think about it at the top border, but this one, even if I hadn't done the top border, I almost always remember on the bottom border, because by the time I get to the end, it's not going to be as straight as the top of my quilt. And so it enters my head, oh no, my border may not be as straight as I think it should be. And so what you do to get to fabric compensation is you say, sew all. It goes to the next screen, and you would use all your settings and make sure that you have whatever settings in terms of what your stitches per inch and how you want to start and stop already done. Then you're going to go to plugins, and you go to fabric compensation. And I'm going to use my needle jog to do this. I'm going to go forward till I can get that needle much closer to the fabric. And what it's going to do is, if you will see the dark line right here, and then those are lighter green, you scroll through the screens like this. You can go to next, and then next. It's this one, it's this one, finally back to where it wanted to start. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring your needle exactly on the seam line, and it is going to make adjustments for you if it's not straight, so that your border will be straight. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that across all of them, but I'm not going to go up very high on each one of these, because there isn't any need to go past about just a few inches. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those sections. So I've used the fabric compensation all the way around. This was the last one, and then I'm just going to say okay. And what it has done is, anywhere that my fabric where my border is irregular, it has fixed it so that the seam allowance or the margin is going to be consistent throughout the quilt. It's going to make any compensation, any changes to make everything look like it's straight. So now I'm just going to pull the bobbin and let it run. This pattern has finished stitching out, and so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull the bobbin and I'm going to take it off the frame. And when I do that, I'm actually going to close completely out of QCT and reload it on the frame. And the reason I completely go out of QCT is because when I put this back on the frame, the dimensions aren't going to be exactly the same because my backing is a little bit wider and my for a lot of reasons, it wouldn't be exactly the same. And so I will need to reset my safe area. And closing out a QCT will make me have to reset that safe area, as if you don't reset your safe area, you can run into problems. So now I have put my fabric, turned the fabric, and I put my fabric back on the frame. And I have set my safe area and opened back up into gold borders and corners. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm actually going to start at the bottom of my quilt. And you don't have to start at the top or the bottom. It does not really make a difference. Just because of the way I put my frame, my fabric back on the frame, I was already here, and this just keeps me from having to roll it unnecessarily. So I'm going to start down here, and I am just going to get the pattern that I had. Or was it this one? I'm going to say open. Now I'm going to have to place all my squares first, but I'm going to go ahead and place this. So let's go back and say bottom. And I'm going to place all of my points. I'm going to have to worry about this edge just a little bit. That's what I did wrong. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to make sure that my margins are still set, and it's not. So I'm going to unlock, and I remembered that I did a half for the outer and the inner was supposed to be an eighth. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to check it. I'm going to say get patterns, and I'm going to undo. I don't want to have a corner. So I'm going to X out of that. There we go. So now I only have this. Now what I want to do, I am going to go ahead and check autofill. And I'm going to go back to my margins, and I need to set the left and the right edge. So where I'm going to go, so I'm going to go to right where that pattern is supposed to start, and that is my left edge. And then I'm going to go over here to the right corner, and I'm going to say right edge. And before I proceed to make sure that everything is kind of lining up where I need it to be, I'm going to go to my marking tool. I'm going to draw a line, add, where I think that these should be, and make sure that indeed right where these patterns are starting, as you can see mine actually is on the line. This is a pattern by Grace, and so they work very, very well, the patterns by Grace. And there we go. It did draw a line across there, but what I'm looking for is to see if the pattern is starting and stopping where I need it to be, and it is. So I'm going to say okay with that. I'm going to go back up to border placement and style, or I can even erase my markings. Remove, yes. So now I can just see what's on the screen. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to say so all, and then I'm going to use fabric compensation. And it's very important now that I have moved the fabric and put it differently on the frame that I use the fabric compensation. So again, I will go to plugins, fabric compensation, and as a reminder of the dark line, you scroll through it by going next to whichever line that you're working on, and I will just go along the outside edge and show. I don't even really have to do the left and right sides. I really only need to do the top and the bottom so that I can make any adjustments for not being completely straight. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to turn this off and do that. So what I have done, I did choose to change my foot because I was afraid that with the bigger foot, the wider foot, Super Glide, that it would hit my bar here. Due to my own poor planning, I didn't leave enough backing to have enough space, a better space to finish this quilt. But I have a good sized margin right here, so I'm not too worried about hitting the bar so long as I make sure I have my margin and the smaller foot. So I have pulled the bobbin and I'm just going to sew. While I am stitching this out, I'd like to point out that there is a start and a stop right here, and that one of the things that I didn't necessarily show when I had the markings is that I could see that the start and the stop were right where they were supposed to be. If your start and stops are not in the right place, you would need to use some other features, which may be in another video in the future. But if your start and your stops are not in the correct place for starting your stitching, like if they need to be over or left or right, if you need to move that in some way to get it to start where you need to, there is a way to do that, and I will probably do that in another video. So this is finished stitching, and I'm going to pull the bobbin and roll to the top. I've rolled up to the top, and I am back in the placement screen. I'm just going to change this to the top, and it says, warning, you must redo your border corner points onto the fabric now that you have changed edges, which is just, again, just showing where all of the dots are doing your placement. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to do that. So I've gone ahead and set those points, and I can already see that I need to make adjustments. You can see where the pattern wants to go right here, and it's not going to fit quite right. So I'm going to go to the next part. I'm going to say set my margins, just like I did before. I'm going to find where that margin is supposed to start. And I'm going to use my needle jog to do that. And I'm going to say that is my left edge. Back, and I'm going to show it the right edge. Right edge, right there. And then I'm going to use my marking tool as well. Use my marking tool. I'm going to say add a line right here. So I'll say you got to call it something. Add a marking right there. Just going to kind of where that other side is supposed to be. I'm just going to add a point. And all I'm doing, I can scroll in to show you. I want to see where those 2 points are going to be in relation to the line I'm drawing, and that's close enough for me. I could try and make it perfect, but that is actually just pretty close. I'm not going to complain about that. There are ways I can make it closer than that, but I'm not looking for perfection. So I'm going to add it. I'm going to scroll back out. And if you don't want a line that goes across here, you can always add a marking and call it something else to enter. Then I'll put a marking where that side line is supposed to be. And I can scroll, move over here, and see how is that lining up. And that's right where it needs to be. So again, I'm not unhappy at all with that at all. So I'm going to say okay. And I am going to say sew all. And then I'm going to use fabric compensation. Go to fabric compensation right here. And again, I'm only going to do this line and that line, and I'll turn the recording off until I finish that. So I do the fabric compensation, and I am going to now pull my bobbin and sew. So some tips while it starts to sew out with fabric compensation. You can get a thumb mouse That will probably make it a lot easier if you need to do a lot of points. But another thing you can do, I'm going to say that the super glide foot is a whole lot easier to do the marking with when you're doing fabric compensation and using the marking tool, because it's clear and it has some lines that indicate the center of the needle left and right. And that I find is very helpful. But something that I also found helpful is if you need to do a lot of points, you can actually take your foot off so that you're only dealing with a needle and then put your foot back on. And I have found that that can be a lot faster and a lot more accurate as well. So just give that some thought. If you have a lot of points that need to be really, really super well placed, or marking that needs to be just perfect for you to accomplish something, it just depends on your task. You might consider one of those options. It's just going to finish stitching out, and I'll pull the bobbin, and this project is called done. So if you've been watching, thank you so much.